Welcome to Bots and Bytes, the ultimate tech talk podcast. Join us as we journey from the realm of AI to the boundless expanse of the cloud. We'll explore the cutting-edge technologies that are reshaping customer experiences and driving businesses to new heights. Prepare to be inspired, informed, and intrigued as we delve into the world of innovation and transformation. I'm your host, Jess Vigorito, and this is Bots and Bytes, a GTS production where tech dreams become reality. Let's dive in. Welcome, tech enthusiasts, to Bots and Bytes, the ultimate tech talk podcast. I'm your host, Jess Vigorito from Global Technology Solutions. Today, we're joined by Matt Doyon, career sales guy, author of Revenue Revolution, and co-founder and CEO at Triple Session. Today's deep dive is all about AI in sales. Welcome, Matt. So happy to have you join me.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Let's dive immediately into what you're here for and why you're here. You're not exactly the typical guest that I would have on here because you're more of a sales guy, but I hear in your book, Revenue Revolution, and in your training, you talk a lot about AI and being able to utilize that in sales. So give me a brief overview about your perspective, and then let's jump right into some questions.
Yeah, AI is transforming everything. Obviously, everyone knows that. And sales is not immune to it. Far from it, actually. We are seeing the impacts of AI at every level, every role, every part of the process that we typically run in sales. And because of that, they're really specifically going to be winners and losers here. And the analogy I'd like to use is the first electric calculator hit the market in 1961. And imagine what that did to the world of accounting. And there were winners and losers from that. And if you were just old school on the sheets and wanted to write everything down longhand math because you felt that the traditional way to service your clients was best, well, you're a dinosaur, you're gone. And the firms that put those little calculators on their desks everywhere, they quickly consume the market. And now we look at that as silly, right? That's just standard of care. But today in sales, we're going through that same transformation. And those conversations are happening now. The conversations of, are we over automating? Are we using machine learning too much? Have we extended it too far? So it's an interesting conversation that we're having with ourselves in the sales world right now. And it's one that I have some pretty strong opinions on. So hopefully we can dive into some of those here today.
Yeah, absolutely. I like to equate where we're at right now to similar points in time when the internet first came out, the World Wide Web, and people were like, oh, I don't need to have an email address. I don't need to pay AOL to have access to this information. And how quickly those companies and those people were left behind because of the speed of technology improving right now. And now everyone has an email address. That's the standard. Everyone has a cell phone. Very few people have landlines now. So I feel AI is on a similar trajectory as that, and that we as a society, whether we want to or not, we need to embrace it so that we have control and power over how it's developed and how it's used. And the people who jump on this wagon right from the start are going to be the winners by a lot. So let's jump into some of these questions. So I know one of the big topics, I see it jumping around on LinkedIn all the time, almost on a daily basis, is that many jobs are at risk due to AI. And I see this even in the media. There's a lot of articles out there, which jobs are at the highest risk of becoming obsolete due to AI. What do you think? What sales jobs or are sales jobs at risk due to AI?
Not too many. And this raises some eyebrows from most people in the market, but I'm not really concerned at all. And that sounds very cavalier, but let me unpack why. Because I've done a lot of thinking on this topic. And really, when we look at AI and really where AI helps, it's with basic cognitive work. So think of the chatbot on the website, or even better, think of going to the grocery store and checking out your food on your own. You don't have to wait in line and get the checkout person to scan your groceries. You can just scan them yourselves, and the machine is going to tally it up for you and give you your bill. That's where the replacement is happening with that really simple cognitive work that, yes, it takes some computation, but it doesn't necessarily need a human. And we see some of that in sales coming out with the chatbots where the bot will pop up on the site. And based on branching logic, I can kind of guide you through a conversation. With e commerce, they guide you all the way through the purchase, of course, but that's not sales. Really, sales has always been and will continue to always be an emotional process, not a rational one. Purchasing is rational. Just buying something through an e-commerce site. That's, hey, I need something, I'm going to buy it, swipe my credit card, and I'm done. Selling and
Hmm.
going through a purchasing process, that requires trust. It requires security. It requires a sense of accomplishment, or if I'm moving away from something that I'm solving a problem for, a sense of alleviation from anxiety. Those are emotions. And the robots don't do a good job of that. Now, maybe someday they will, but I think we're still really far away from the point where I am going to either not know I'm working with a bot, so I'll default to the human confident level, or I'll trust the robot more and feel more emotionally comfortable with a robot than I will another human. Just don't think we're there yet. The analogy is robocalls. When we receive an automated call outbound, or when we go through an automated dialing system inbound, we just get really frustrated by it. We always say, just get me a
We're
human.
annoyed.
Yeah, it's efficient, it's clean,
100%.
yeah, but it's annoying. Yeah, we want a human.
We do. And I think that one of the areas, and I do know there are organizations and companies already addressing this. One way that companies can really help in sales with AI is they do things like sentiment analysis, where they might pick up the tone of the voice of the person who you're speaking with and go, oh, you're starting to lose them. And they may even pop up one or two suggestions on screen of things that you might be able to say to pull their attention back in. I think that's extremely valuable. That's like having a live coach on every single call. It's also really great for your manager. Your manager can go in, really see exactly how the call went, and not just by listening to it, but they get all this extra feedback from the AI. So certainly AI is helping sales in that regard instead of hurting it. It's only boosting, it's only making the job of the salesperson that much more efficient, and also the salesperson is that much more engaged with the customer.
Exactly right. And this is the real magic of AI, and this is really where it's weaving in. It's not putting us out of work, it's making us better at our jobs. It's actually giving us job security
Yes.
more than putting us at risk, because we can actually be far more effective with this technology if we use it the right way.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great perspective. That's not controversial to me. I fully agree with that. It's definitely making all of our jobs that much more stable. I do see, like we already discussed in the example of a cashier, there are certain jobs that are at risk due to AI, but those are jobs that don't require that human element the same way that the vast majority of jobs out there actually do, especially sales requires that human to human connection. Where do you see AI impacting sales the most?
There are a few areas that I've already started to see significant impact. So first, if we look at things like email communication, again, there's not a lot of emotion in that, where I'm reading something, it's cognitive, but because of the sheer volumes of data that go out through email, now AI can pick apart what elements are best and guide a human through making the best email communication possible. So we've already known exactly now what the construct of a subject line should look like, what the impact is of the opening lines of an email to elicit the best return on that email investment. And AI has now given us the gift where we can plug that in, and they can stop you before you hit send, say, well, wait a minute, let me proofread this really quickly here and give you some suggestions based on the machine learning on this gets a better response than that. That looks good. This over here mostly looks good, but try thinking about using this versus that. And here's why. So, using the data analysis that AI has allowed us to extract from email is huge. But it's not just the rational cognitive stuff as well. There's a company called Virtual Sapiens that I'm a big fan of. And what they do is they plug into your virtual conference. So if you're using Zoom or whatever, they're going to plug into your camera and they're going to read your delivery. Are you smiling enough? Do you have enough inflection? Are you animated enough? They're reading this because they know what other humans like from a very logarithmic standpoint. And they can measure whether or not you're resonating with the other person or doing what you need to do to land the best way possible on an emotional level. So it's funny to think of it this way, but the robots are helping us be better humans by knowing what humans like and telling us
Right.
other humans that I have analyzed like this, this, and this. And you're grading 75% here, 32% there, 97% there. And it allows you to express yourself in a more human way because of the AI. It's a real strange world that we're getting into now when robots are telling us how to be more human. But that's where we are.
It is really fascinating. I also think that in general, people can tell when things are written by AI and they don't like it. I see that on LinkedIn. Like many people comment, if someone makes a post that's generated by ChatGPT or AI, they have strong feelings about that. It's written by a robot. It's not real. Obviously, we even have the strikes going on in Hollywood about, the writers. How much AI can we use in the film industry? So this is a huge discussion. It really opens up a big can of worms. But I think it always boils down to, at the end of the day, we are looking for that human to human connection every single time across the board. And AI can really help us do that more efficiently. As you said, it is very ironic that a robot can come in and say, hey, this text will land better with this human if you change this and this word. But the robot itself, the AI, does not yet have the capability to do that on its own. We all can clearly tell when something has been written by AI right now, at least most of us. And so it'll be interesting moving forward as AI continues to develop, as it continues to learn more and more. Can it and will it be able to mimic humans to the point where we can't tell the difference? And at that point, I think it becomes extremely relevant for companies to be highly transparent. Hey, you are talking to an AI right now, because no one likes to feel like we don't know what's going on or like we've been fooled. So that level of transparency, I think, really becomes the utmost importance. You're talking to an AI now. You're not talking to a human. If you want to talk to a human, this is how you need to do it.
Yeah, especially in sales. It's all built on a cornerstone of trust. And if you violate that trust, you'll never do business with me again. That's how we all feel about the businesses that we work with.
Yes.
And if we feel like they're trying to pull the wool over our eyes and, you know, give us the Jen bot, not Jennifer, then we're going to feel uneasy about that company because we won't know what to believe anymore. So I completely agree with you. What we need to do, if we're really going to use AI to that degree, we got to be open about it. You're talking to GenBot. You don't have Jennifer yet. So
Yeah.
we'll get Jennifer involved when we need her, but GenBot is here to help you get most of the way.
So coming from there, where do you think sales AI is heading?
So it's funny, we are going to have this as table stakes throughout most of the sales world in the sense where it's like email. Would you not have email today? That's a ridiculous question. But years ago, we were
Right.
there. Maybe we don't need this. Maybe we don't need the website. Maybe we don't need the chatbots. Maybe we don't need any of it. So in the transition that we're going to see in the next 12 to 18 months is standard of care. You need AI reading your emails so that the humans are not writing crazy shit in their emails and writing stuff that just won't perform, right? So we'll have AI essentially playing editor to make sure that performance is there. That's basic. We already use conversational AI pretty well in sales. So that was Gong.io, that's Chorus, that's a number of conversational AI where the robots are reading your conversation, telling you what you missed and what you got, and helping you get better for the next one and go back and figure out if you missed something, you got to go get it. So the robots are already there. That proliferation has pretty much already happened. It's hard to find a sales organization today of 20 people or more that's not already using that to optimize performance. Where is it going? In two funny directions. One, we're going to continue to see more of that, which is not the funny part, but we're going to see more of that AI impacting how do we present, like I mentioned with Virtual Sapiens. How is your actual live presentation landing on an emotional level? Are you finding all the people throughout the organization that you should? AI is going to help with that. There's going to be a number of ways that AI will help us streamline that process. But then in the other strange direction is it's actually going to bring more human activity into the equation. Because what happens when everybody is doing the same thing and the robots are now everywhere, it gets lost in the messaging. You can't differentiate, you can't stand out. And what we'll then see, and this is a wildly unpopular view I have, so I invite everybody to disagree with me, but I believe the pendulum will then swing back to a more human concierge service, where the differentiator you'll see in sales teams is that not that they have AI and they optimize the experience through AI, because everybody is doing that, that they strategically use the human interaction to make it even better. So yes, I'm going to reach out to you using AI through email and through text on social, but I'm actually going to give you a phone call from a human. And because of how AI is guiding me, it's going to be a very gentle, well received phone call that it just lands really well, but it's going to be real. It's going to be an actual person. And we're going to see that process take shape. You'll see more people make, actually the cold call revolution is actually coming up. It wasn't dead years ago and it's not dying because of AI. It's going to come back because it's where humans can differentiate. And then adding more of the human interaction throughout a process will come in as well, because AI will help us be more efficient on the back office. Don't have to spend so much time building proposals, sending follow-up emails, doing a lot of the legwork inside CRM. AI is going to save a lot of time, so then I can actually talk to people more and nurture the conversation and deliver more of that concierge service. So the human element will actually rise up throughout sales conversations more than it's been before because of AI, not in spite of it.
I love that vision. And I actually think you're right on with that in terms of the pendulum. Any new tech, anything that revolutionizes the world, the pendulum always swings far, but it always settles in the middle. And as we have discussed already, that connection is what we're always going for, whether it's in dating, whether it's in business, whether it's parent to child, teacher to student, we're always looking for that connection. And phone calls have fallen off as there's so many people I talk to who say, I don't like to talk on the phone. I'm one of those people myself. In fact, I say I don't like to talk on the phone. But the reason why I don't like to talk on the phone is because we're now so spoiled that I can talk camera to camera with someone. I can see the whole person. I can see their facial expressions. I don't need to just hear their voice any longer. So I would rather have that full experience where I can take in all the data and input that someone's body language is giving off and follow that conversation than just be on the phone with them to hear their voice. But moving forward, I really feel that AI is going to help us incorporate and kind of come back to a place where we communicate in a more natural state with each other. I see a lot of articles out there. There's so much commentary about the millennials don't know how to communicate with each other because they were born into tech and they text each other and they don't know how to use the phone. And to an extent, I don't like to generalize any group of people out there. To an extent, I do see that with my own children. So I can tell you that. I'm not going to say all millennials, but at least I could say I see that with some of my children. But I also see that desire to learn more and to come back to how do we communicate? How do we connect? So I think you're right on target there. And I'd love to know, as you know, you're a career sales guy, you've written an amazing book, Revenue Revolution, and you have a sales training program, Triple Session. You've got to have some advice. So what are you advising when sales reps and sales leaders come to you regarding AI?
Yeah, so learn everywhere based on your process. And this is mostly for the sales leadership that I talk to and then frontline salespeople. Every sales process is unique and every customer conversation is unique. And you have to understand where AI is going to add the most value. So, first, analyze what's out there, try to stay up to speed on it. It's moving really fast, but understand where can AI add value, but also come to that conversation with where the limitations are. You know, the chatbots or the AI text generators like OpenAI or Bard or any of those out there, they're great as far as a first draft with a lot of stuff, but they need a lot of editorial and they need a lot of guidance. So understand when you look at something like that, that you still need to do a lot of the heavy lifting. Don't just assume it's plug and play yet. Second, you mentioned it, and no, we don't want to generalize or bucket people, but the data suggests that certain generations are hardwired with certain characteristics, right? So I'm a Gen Xer. What does that mean? Generally speaking, we are not great with authority. We like to cast a lot of that off. We liked the freedom that came with the job market over the last 20 years. Hey, we're not going to have you clock in and clock out. Do your work, get it done. Let's measure you on your results and all of that. And that's borne out with the data. When we look at the millennials, and this is just a function of the world that they had grown up in and the parenting from the boomers, is that they're great managers because they were sent on the play dates and nobody was keeping score at the soccer game and everyone got a participation trophy, and it's, hey, let's get along and let's accept. The millennials look back at older generations and they think it's ridiculous that we had fights over racism and sexism and gender inequality. I mean, they don't even to think of us having conversations about some of the social concepts that we had in the 60s and 70s. They look at it as just juvenile and ridiculous, which they were right. And if we look at this next generation that's now entering the job force, the Zoomers, born 1996 and later, they're even farther along the digital transformation education. They live inside the digital world. And it's also borne out in the data that, yeah, they don't talk to as many people because they just grew up with technology that sent it all into text and didn't have the play dates, weren't in the playground with other kids. They when COVID hit, they loved being locked down because they didn't have to go out and do anything and interact with other people. They thought it was a vacation. It was great for them. So there is that necessity now, which AI can help us with more than anywhere else, is now this thing that you're very comfortable with, Zoomer, this computer conversation, this AI driven advice that you get, it's going to help you close some of those gaps that you might have in social interaction that you just didn't have because of the world you had grown up in and the technology as to where it was. So all of this is going to work itself out. I'm optimistic about humans generation by generation. We have our weaknesses and we have our strengths by generation. We just really need to play to them. And AI actually plays into both for the Zoomers. You love being online? Great. The solution is there. And statistically, you're not as comfortable with other humans as millennials and Gen X and baby boomers were. Well, the AI can help you get there as well. And it's going to teach it to you in a way that you like to be taught.
100%. I agree. Great perspective. What AI are you bullish on heading into 2024?
Yeah, so I love Lavender. Lavender is an AI tool, AI for email that will grab a hold of you by the wrist before you hit send on an email and stop you before you send a horrible email that is destined to not convert. So they say, no, you don't want to write that subject line. Your prospect will hate it. You want to shorten it up. This is going to be read on mobile. You got to spread it out. It's the robot that will save email. I'd mentioned Virtual Sapiens. Love that. That plugs into Zoom or any other tool that you're using for video conferencing, and it will guide you to be a better speaker. So all the stuff that we used to do analog with Toastmasters seminars and we had to get in front of other people and they would score us based on how well we presented and, don't say and so much and maintain eye contact and gesture. Now we have AI called Virtual Sapiens that helps us do that. Those two I see weaving into the sales world really, really well and using AI to, again, make us more human. So when I think about where we're going to head next year, that's really where I would invest two pools of my AI sales budget. At the top with email, with something like Lavender, and later on, once the conversation gets going with Virtual Sapiens. I'm not paid by either one of them. They're not taking care of me. These are just tools that I really like. So, make of that what you will.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Lavender and a big fan of them also. When I was in sales, I used them quite regularly, and I never got that elusive 100, but I'm quite confident that I would have an email score of 100 if I had continued using them, if I had remained in sales. I did get several 98s and 99s. That was always my goal, but that ever elusive 100 and didn't quite get there. But those are absolutely fantastic tools. And thank you so much for suggesting them to the audience today. There you have it, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to another mind-blowing episode of Bots and Bytes. Special thanks to our guest, Matt Doyon, for this insightful conversation about AI and sales. Thanks so much, Matt, for sharing your knowledge and perspectives with all of us. Tell me, how can our audience find you?
So a couple ways. I am really active on LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. I post daily. If you want to add me on LinkedIn and DM me there, I am not inbox zero, but I am in-mail zero. So I will get back to you if you DM me on LinkedIn. Also, triplesession.com. You can sign up for free. We have tons of training, one dedicated to AI. So how is AI impacting sales? There's a full training course on that topic you can get into and get it for free. That's another great way. And we are donating all of the proceeds from Book Revenue Revolution to a nonprofit called build.org. Build is a NGO that deals directly with under-resourced communities. They go into high schools and teach juniors and seniors everything they want to know about entrepreneurship. They are forging the next generation of entrepreneurs in the areas that we need the help the most, coming from some of those under-resourced communities. So buy the book, and a small donation is going to go from all the proceeds into build.org.
I love that. Man after my own heart. To all of our listeners, I really appreciate you joining us on this enlightening journey. Stay informed and inspired by subscribing to our podcast, Bots and Bytes, for future exciting discussions with expert guests. Stay curious, stay tech savvy, and keep exploring limitless innovation and possibilities. This is Jess Figueredo from GTS signing off. You can find GTS at globo-tek.com. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Bots and Bytes. To learn more about the topics discussed in this episode, reach out to us at hello@globo-tek.com.